38 minutes past the hour right now. The president wants to make some major changes for middle-class taxpayers, and he wants the wealthy to pay for them.
So we've learned that the president will make his proposal at Tuesday night's State of the Union address, and it includes plans to raise the capital gains tax, close what's been known as, or at least will be called, the trust fund loophole, which would hike taxes on inherited money.
That money would help pay for middle-class tax breaks, essentially, including credits for families where both parents work and overhauling the education tax system.
All right, let's talk about it with Maria Cardona. She's a CNN political commentator and Democratic strategist. Also, Lisa Boothe is with us, the senior director at the BlackRock Group and Republican strategist. Good to have both of you this early morning. I want to start with you.
Good morning, Victor. Good morning.
I want to start with you, Maria. Washington doesn't just pass budgets anymore. So is this a document that is about legacy, about setting the stage for 2016? What are we looking at here?
I think it's partly that, Victor, but I also think that it is this president's mission to continue to fight for middle-class families and working-class voters who are the ones who have been left behind by the resurgence we have seen in the economy. And his hope is that Republicans will finally be able to understand that they have a responsibility to govern, and part of that responsibility is to ensure that middle-class families are able to take part in that resurgence. When you have an economy right now, Victor, where top 0.01% of earners are paying very, very little taxes, much less than you and I and Lisa and other working Americans, it is not an economy that is working for everybody. And so if the GOP, like some presidential candidates have started to talk about, really want to attack the income gap, then this is something that they should be working with the president to achieve.
So, Lisa, do you think this is forcing Republicans into another narrative of Democrats stand up for the working poor and middle class, and Republicans are for the rich guy? Or do you think that the Republicans in Congress will be able to shift this narrative?
Well, I think it's a false narrative from the president. And essentially what he's doing is robbing from Peter to pay Paul. And what it's going to do is take money away from private businesses that could otherwise expand and grow, which ultimately hurts the economy. Look, taxes have already increased by trillions of dollars under this president. If you look at Obamacare, it's the largest tax increase in history in terms of raw dollars. And what President Obama essentially wants to do is tax Americans more so he can spend more of their money. He's also requesting a 7% increase in spending under his budget. And, you know, if you look, the national debt has increased by $7 trillion under President Obama. And we've seen the three largest deficits since World War II under President Obama. And what he's doing is making faulty investments for Americans. If you look at the stimulus, it costs about $280,000 per job. That's not a good investment. If you look at something like Obamacare, we're spending over $2 trillion to help about 5% of voters. If you look at something like free community college, which he's also going to call for, it's going to cost taxpayers $60 billion when a lot of lower income individuals already have access to Pell Grants. So it may make for good, political sound bites and talking points, but when you look at a lot of these policies in reality, it doesn't help the economy, and it's not good for Americans.
But we at least have to say that the president, the country has made considerable headway on the deficit in the last couple of years.
Well, large part of that because of sequestration.
Absolutely, and this is where I think the Republican talking points really run into a wall, Victor, because this economy is resurging. The deficit has been cut by more than half since President Obama has come into office.
Because of sequestration.
We have had major job creation, more than since 1997. 56 straight months of private sector job creation. More Americans have been insured under Obamacare than we have ever had. And frankly, this economy is resurging. The stock market is at record high levels. But here's the problem, Victor. The CEOs in today's economy are making 936 times more than what workers are making. That's how much their salaries have increased in the last 30 years, while the increase for workers has been less than 10%. And so that is where this president is really trying to focus his solutions. And again, the narrative about Republicans really only wanting to fight for the top income earners is going to continue to solidify if they don't work with this president to try to solve some of these problems, which the president will lay out on Tuesday night.
Lisa, of course, we're awaiting the budget proposal from Republicans to see what compare and contrast to the president's plan. But some of the things that are proposed, this new tax break for two earners and a family, the child tax credit increase. From what we know of the president's plan, is there anything that you see that Republicans will, okay, we'll go with that one. We'll accept any of the plan the president's putting forward?
Well, I think there's been a mutual shared interest to reform the tax code. And, you know, look, at face value, 88% of Americans want to see the tax code reformed. And so I think there's a mutual shared interest. Now, how we go about that is probably going to be a point of contention between Republicans and the president. But here's my biggest concern, President, and what Maria is saying is, look, Republicans want to help the middle-class voters as well, but the way that Democrats are going about it is a faulty premise. If you look at something like the minimum wage debate, the Congressional Budget Office has said that the minimum wage increase would cost 500,000 to 1 million jobs. And if you also look at, according to Pew Research, the majority of those individuals who are going to see a minimum wage increase are actually of the ages 16 to 23, and they're living in households that make above the national average. And 2/3 of those individuals will see an increase in pay within a year. So my problem with Democrats is that their arguments make for good sound bites, they make for good political talking points, but they don't help the economy. Let's look at helping every American.
They also make for very good policy, and what's so ironic is then why is it that in the last election, Lisa, you saw 5
Obama saw historic losses? Because that's what happened in the last election.
Let's hear from Maria, and Maria wraps it up.
Five Republican states in the last election in 2014 raised the minimum wage by voters going to the polls to saying this is what they wanted. And here's again the problem with Republicans. Most of what the president is going to be putting out there on Tuesday, Victor, is vastly supported by the American people because they know that this president is on his side, on their side.
However, most districts in the country voted in Republicans in both the Senate and the House. So this is obviously divided government.
Well, when you have 36%
like Illinois,
where Pat Quinn had
the highest tax increase in Illinois history,
but I'll tell you this.
If you look at states like Maryland, where the Democrat governor there had high tax increases on the quote-unquote, higher income earners, he lost. And Larry Hogan is now the governor in Maryland.
If Republicans continue to fight for the 0.01%, then, Victor, I will be taking you to the inauguration of a Democratic president in 2017.
All right, I'll accept the invitation.
Not accept your...
Maria Cardona, Lisa Boothe, always a great conversation. I thank you both for getting up this early for us.
Thank you, Victor.